All right, let's get started, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Gina Spatafor, Trade Show Manager for NEC Display Solutions, and welcome to today's webinar, where we're going to do a deep dive on the PX2000 UL. Before I hand it over to our presenter, I just want to go over a few things. All lines have been muted, and if you do have any questions, feel free to use the chat box, and we will get to those at the end. Today's presenter is Matt Greaser, Projector Specialist, part of our solutions team here. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Matt.
Thanks, Gina. Thanks everyone for joining today. Like Gina just said, we're going to jump into some pertinent information about one of our newest models of projector at NEC, the PX2000. And with that, let's get started. So the objectives for today's presentation are these 5 questions here, and just kind of any of these questions that anyone would have regarding where this kind of goes in our lineup or how they would use this in an installation. Hopefully this will give some information on that and everything surrounding that model. So the first question is, where does the PX2000 fit in your portfolio? What do you need to know about it? Third question, how does it stack up versus other models in that class? And then what technology makes this different? There is some new technology in this model that's pretty exciting. And then the last question is, how install friendly is the PX2000? So with that, let's get going. So this is NEC's projector portfolio here. You'll see that unit on the bottom there. That is what the PX2000 looks like, and it sits in the upper middle end of our lineup. So the only projectors above our PX series are the PH and then the NC, which designate them as cinema projectors. The PH series also are cinema projectors. They've been repurposed with different internals to allow them to be used in a large venue application, adding geometric correction, etc. Now those models get up to 40,000 plus lumens, and so they're usually quite large. They're 3-chip DLP, and so a lot of newer installations that need flexibility and a lot of brightness, the cinema grade chassis are just too large and bulky. So we've got this new model, the PX2000, and we're pretty excited about it. So let me kind of cover off some of the things about it that make it unique, right? So single chip DLP, you'll see that and say, I wonder why they didn't use a 3-chip DLP. And we'll cover that here in the next several slides on why that was. There's RB laser inside of it, right? So blue laser drives the majority of the output of the unit. So the amplitude of the light would be driven off the blue laser, and then there's a red assist channel in there as well, and that helps widen the color. 20,000 hour lifetime, max lifetime, that's half-life, mind you. That's pretty standard in the industry. 1920 by 1200 native resolution. So this can do either WXGA or also 1080p. It'll just blank out those rows. So 24/7 usage. This can be used in applications that are going to be run like retail, experiential, etc., where they're going to be on for long periods of time. Flexible placement. We have a number of lenses available, and then also quite a bit of flexibility with how to mount it, placement, etc. Built-in edge blending and stacking. And so if you wanted 40,000 lumens and you didn't want to pay a mint for it, you could stack multiple units of this for redundancy, or just to get that extra brightness, and it's already designed for that. Connectivity here at the bottom, we'll go into that in detail, but you can see it has all the analog and digital sources you would want there. As far as markets that it is designed for, it could even go into education environments where maybe a very large auditorium, etc. House of worship is obvious. And then also this is really great for rental staging, being that it is single chip DLP, it is robust and laser based, so it would be a little bit more rough and tumble and able to travel. So this is what the unit looks like here. That's all angles of it. You don't need to take any screenshots and zoom in on that bottom right. Well, I'll actually show a close-up of the input and control panel coming up. But this is what the unit looks like here. You can see it is single chip DLP and it is filterless. There's very low maintenance on this unit. Now, applications that this would be used for, I kind of briefly talked about them, but let's start here on the left. Those are both very different types of museums, but they're both museum applications. and they are also blends. So you'll see the top left there, that is a ribbon essentially of a number of units blended together in that museum space. And then on the bottom is a more interactive environment, but a similar shape, and that would be like an underwater aquarium type ribbon shape that has been blended. As you move over here to the middle, that's a white BMW that's being projection mapped onto. With you can draw on it. That's a pretty neat application that is being done more and more in museums and other experiential environments. In the middle, that's more traditional. That would be an arena with projection mapping on the floor. That's been seen a lot at the Olympics and other high-end events. And then House of Worship at the bottom there. So that would be great for outdoor kind of rental staging. That almost looks like a concert, right? A House of Worship type concert that's large. This would be perfect for that type of installation. And then on the right, you get into a more traditional large venue auditorium. It would be a longer throw. So this being a 20,000 lumens max projector, you could shoot that across from a projector booth and get a really good image on the screen without a lot of, you're going to lose some light shooting across a room of that size with a long throw lens, and that 20,000 lumens gives you that headroom you would need. And then on the bottom right here, that's again an edge blend in a ribbon shape. Looks like about a 7-unit blend there. Someone took a panorama picture there, right? So that would be going around the room there in a kind of an experiential environment there that's great for blending. Now, as we move to the next slide here, this is the comparison table. This is kind of the lay of the land of products in this class that are available now and some specs about them, right? So you'll see here on the far left here, that's the NEC PX2000UL. And you'll see at the very top, there's a single chip DLP, then there's some 3 DLP models, and then there's 3 LCD models. Now, I said that you're wondering maybe why this is a single chip DLP for this level of product. If you look at the very bottom row, that'll kind of tell you why. So if you want 20,000 lumens with this projector, you're right around $30,000 in street price. And if you look at the 3 DLP row, those are $77,000 and $85,000 respectively, right? So very similar performance. We have the chassis is going to be smaller on the NEC unit, and then the cost you can see is less than half. So if you want that amount of light and still good color performance, it's really a sweet spot on this product and why it was designed. So you'll see maximum 20,000 lumens on the NEC, right around 115 pounds, and the dimensions are also there, and the street price right around $30,000. Now, if you get on the far right, you look at the Epson 15,000 lumen model, it's actually almost $3,000 more for 5,000 less lumens, right? So cost to performance ratio is very high with this unit. So dollars per lumen is very compelling, and also not being 3 chip, it's more compact and would be easier to do it like a rental install or a temporary installations, experiential installations outdoor where they're not going to be fixed for a long period of time. All right, now let's move to the model code. This is something we recently put together that's going to help explain how NEC models work, at least specifically to projector. There's obviously, this kind of goes across our other product lineups as well, but this kind of breaks down how projector models work at NEC. Me dealing with projectors all day, every day, this is easy for me to think of, but I know every manufacturer does this a little bit differently, and this is how we do it, right? So NP, pretty straightforward. People joke that maybe means NEC projector. I don't know, maybe it does, but I wasn't around when that was decided. But NP, generally, when we quote a model, we drop that off because we already know it's a projector, and NP denotes projector. As you move to the next group here, that would be the series, right? So we put those all in there. You can see this is our current lineup. It could be an MC, a UM, a PA, PX, and that's what this one would be here, right? So that's kind of as those move up in output or in application, we move into the P's numbers, right? And then we left the cinema units off of there because those model numbers work a bit differently than all the rest of the projector portfolio. Now the next one's important. This is where questions start to come up on how this model number works. 200 on this one means add 2 zeros to that, and you have a 20,000 lumen projector, right? This is a PX2000. That 1,000 zero is the generation of product, right? So if we look at a different product, like maybe a PA703, that's a 7,000 lumen unit, and it's generation 3. So it's not 703 lumens. It's 7,000 and then Gen 3. This being the first generation of this chassis that has a 0. So if we look into the future and move out to maybe the next version of this, it'll be a PX 2001 potentially, right? If they do a next generation of that. So 200 plus 2 zeros is the light output, max light output. Then we move over to the next number, and that's the generation. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we have some Gen 5 projector products out there now. And then the next one would be resolution. So that little legend will tell you what this one is a U, and that would denote WUXGA native resolution, right? So currently in our lineup, we have everything from 4K UHD, 4K units in our cinema lineup. Very common ones are the W or the U, which would be WUXGA or WXGA. And then the last digit is what the light source is. Now, if this is blank and it just said, like say we are talking about our PA lineup and it's PA 853W and no L, that would mean lamp, right? So if it's blank and there's nothing there, it's lamp based, and if there is an L, that means laser. That would be it. Sounds really simple. Hopefully I made it sound simple, but that should help. And if anyone needs this slide or is interested in this, we can get it over to you. So now the next information here is, why did we go to a 3-chip or a single chip engine, and what was done differently? I said there was some new technology in this, and certainly single chip DLP is not new. That's been around for some time. But what they did is, you'll see there on the top, is they added a red assist channel. Now, there's not so many red LEDs in there to where the costs went up significantly or where it was helping drive the brightness of the unit. All the heavy lifting of the lumen output of the projector is done with the blue channel through the phosphor wheel in a traditional way. If you look at the bottom right light engine, that is a PX1005 QL. That is our 10,000 lumen unit in this PX chassis, or smaller PX chassis, but it is only blue laser, right? So it has blue laser through a phosphor wheel, and then that goes into the color wheel, etc. What the red assist does is it gives it a deeper ability to push into green and red, and you'll see that over here on the left. Adding in more primary color amplitude, it's able to increase the gain and then push out that color chart further. So we're able to satisfy Rec 709 with the PX2000. You'll see that it goes significantly deeper into green and red and yellow than Rec 709 calls for. And on some of our other models, namely here the PX1005, you'll see that we don't get enough green saturation to fully satisfy Rec 709 and full light output. Now, a lot of projectors, you can dial them back off their maximum output and get some more color amplitude and some more gain out of those primaries to get a wider color space, but then you sacrifice light output, right? So this is a really good balance between being very bright and then still maintaining a really deep color saturation. Now, SSL redundancy, this is another benefit. This somewhat extends across all of our solid state units currently, but what this shows is the redundancy capability of laser diodes over a lamp-based unit, right? So let's say that in this case we have a 20,000 lumen unit. In the past, that would probably take at least 2 lamps to get that output, right? More like 4, and then there's the cost involved with that. But purely from an operation standpoint, if you have a lamp unit with a single large lamp in it and that goes out, you have complete failure, right? So it's a showstopper. There is no image on the screen any longer. When a single laser diode goes out in a projector, no one even notices it, right? So if you have dozens and dozens of over 100 of these diodes and one goes out, you don't notice 1/100th less light. It's not noticeable. So laser diodes in a unit, or even LEDs, those offer a better use for the customer. if something is maybe a rental and staging type application, and a few of those have gone out, and it'll be tested, but no one will notice it during the exhibition. Now, I talked earlier about lenses and how there was a lot of options with this. You'll notice here, these are the current 5 lenses available, and there are no gaps here, right? So there's no hole in, where it seems like whenever there's a gap between one lens model and the next, magically everyone needs to have the unit installed in that one little area that it doesn't cover. There are no gaps here, right? So if you look at the left here with the ultra wide lens, 0.9 to 1 throw ratio, right? So how that works is screen width, typically that would be a 16:9 or a 16:10 aspect ratio screen. That total screen width viewable, then divide that is divided into the distance to the projector lens, right? So if it's 20 feet to the projector and you want a 16-foot wide screen, that's going to be a little bit over 1, right? That'll be like in that 1.2 to 1.56 range of that NP46EL there. So the NP46EL goes from 1.2, where the 45 leaves off, goes up to 1.56. And then the 47ZL comes in earlier than there, and that's the standard throw lens. So the unit is rated at its brightness with a standard lens. Typically, those have less glass elements than a very ultra wide lens. And so that's what it'll be rated its brightness with, is that 1.5 to 2.0 standard throw. We believe most customers in a traditional application, a large auditorium, would be using something in that range. And then we do go above that, right? So then at 2, you go to the long throw lens, and there's an ultra long lens. So if this was going to be installed outside, shooting onto a building or any number of applications, then you would typically be getting into more of the longer throw lenses, but they can go all the way out to 7 to 1. Now, connectivity here, you'll see the control panel up top here. I like that. When I'm usually out visiting customers or doing different things, I rarely use a remote control, just because the environment's constantly changing, and it's easier for me to do a lot of things at the projector. Everything is right there and labeled, very easy to figure out, and it's intuitive. So the control panel, I've used it a number of times, and it works really well for me. Zoom, focus, shift, all those things to get it set up. And then here's your connections. So if we start at the top, we'll just kind of go across like we're reading. But you've got 2 12-volt triggers. Those would be used to actuate a lift or a screen or something of that sort, right? You could trigger that off the projector. You've got your PC control, your RS-232. And then you've got your BNC. If you have existing applications where, a large lamped unit was installed, 10,000 plus lumens, and this is going into kind of a legacy installation, but you want it to be plug and play, and maybe the BNC connections are working great and the customer sees no need to run digital, you can just pop those right back on here and not have to change much. So it's real plug and play. Computer in, and then also monitor out if you want to just have it loop out on the VGA there. And then as you move to the right there, 3D sync. It's pretty exciting. This has the 3D sync that you can hook up to it in and out. So you actually could chain 2 of these together and have one projector doing left eye and one doing right eye. Now, this is not a cinema projector. That is a cinema feature. But if this was going to be used in an experiential environment with 3D, that would be what that feature would be pretty exciting for. Now, moving back over here to the left, that would be your remote. You can plug in an analog remote cable from the remote that comes with it, and you can actually you could have this up on a ceiling mount, but you could have a cable run, and you could control it without having a beam infrared around the room. You could actually directly do it out of the remote cable. That's pretty slick from a lot from a valuation standpoint. Then you also have HD-base-T combined with Ethernet LAN right there. And then your first HDMI, DVI-D for digital input there, dual link DVI, and then DisplayPort, of course. These would be all the kind of the usual suspects for digital inputs now. And then you've got your SDIs, right? So if you were going to do rental staging, you would almost certainly be an SDI connection in that environment, and you just pop it right on there. Your second HDMI is there as well. So it has almost every connection anyone could want. And so if there's anything that there's missing from there, I don't know what it is. So it's pretty, it has everything covered for any vertical and what they'd be using. All right, so let's move over here to, we're getting towards the end of this. Like we said earlier, this is very flexible on installation. Portrait mode, you can tilt this any number of ways. Museums or shooting on floors, etc. For type of museums, also outdoor, different types of retail applications, or a number of things that people are starting to do more and more with projectors now that they're getting brighter and the cost is coming down and they're laser based. So there's applications out there. We run into new applications all the time that I haven't heard of anyone doing, but they certainly can now, right? And the exciting thing about projectors compared to other technologies is they're shapeless, right? So we can map whatever size rectangle or whatever size, if we want to put an oval up, we can do an oval screen, right? The projector doesn't care. We just map to that shape. It's pretty exciting. It's not fixed by any borders. Installation wise, this is some information here, and certainly if anyone has more questions on dimensions of this, drawings, they need Revit files or anything, reach out to me. My email is at the beginning, and we'll get that over to anyone that needs it. Also, a lot of this is available on our website. But here you can see the dimensions, the call outs here. Important things, it's just under 120 pounds. Depending on the lens that's added to that, that'll certainly go up a bit. So if you have a really heavy long throw lens on there, that'll bump it up a few pounds. Now, please note too, the lenses on this unit are cinema grade glass. They're very high-end glass lenses. That's really important. NEC, being a cinema projector manufacturer, understands how important lensing is. You can have a wonderful 20,000 lumen plus projector and then put a very low quality lens on the front of that, and then you don't get good brightness uniformity. Typically, if you have 20,000 lumens, you're not going to be putting this on a tiny screen, right? It's going to be a very large surface. And so uniformity is very important, and having quality glass lenses does that. Power usage is important as well. Please note this is a 200, 220, typically in America, North America, it would be, we call it 220, 208 as well in a commercial application. To hit its full output of 20,000 lumens, it needs that 200 to 240 volt. If it is hooked up to a traditional 110, 120 outlet, it will run at 10,000 lumens. So it can still, the functionality of it can still be evaluated. It just won't attain its maximum brightness if hooked up not to 220. Now to kind of we covered this in the beginning, let's run down it again. Important things here, we covered why it's one chip, and the reasoning behind that is getting the size down. We're still maintaining light, and we're still getting the color by having that red assist. So we're able to have a smaller chassis with a lot of brightness and then quite a bit of cost efficiency. So the dollar per lumens is very high with keeping it as a single chip chassis. WXGA rated native resolution. It is 24/7 usage. That allows us to put that retail logo up there. It will work great for retail. It'll work great for rental staging, museums, etc. Museums will be open from in the morning until the evening time, and that's typically 6 days a week. And so this would satisfy that, right? Retail even longer, those hours or longer, and 7 days a week. All the stacking and blending is built in. And then we covered just recently, every input under the sun is on it. And then that is it. So let me put back up my email. Anyone has questions about this? Also, if anyone needs a demo of this unit, we have these ready to ship. We can get those sent to people's homes to evaluate now if they have installations that they're getting geared up to do after things get back to normal. We can get these out to people for evaluations and demos, and certainly reach out to myself, Mark. A lot of people know Mark. He is my counterpart in the East. He would be on, but he had some recent additions to his family, so he is having a bit of time off. So please direct any questions on this model to me. And if there's anything I didn't cover, let me know here, or we can cover it in an email or a phone call. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. I'll leave it open for a little bit if there's any questions, but in the meantime, we do have 2 webinars still left this week. One tomorrow, our episode 3 of our video wall installation installment, I should say. And then Friday is our collaboration solutions webinar. So if you haven't had a chance to register for those, please do. I don't see any other questions. So, but thank you everybody for joining. And we look forward to seeing you on future webinars. Stay safe and be well. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.